This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
Hey guys, today we're going to get into marketing, but this is going to kind of be not your usual marketing show that you've heard me talk about Facebook ads and you've heard me talk about Instagram story ads, and we've gone into, pretty heavily into digital marketing. We're going to kind of go and shift in a different direction. And today I have a story brand certified guide. He owns a marketing company called Caffeine Marketing. Evan, why the name Caffeine?
Well, it's funny. I sat there for months, and first off, thanks for having me. But I sat there for months just thinking about what I should call my agency.
Right.
I started off with just a random name just to get boots on the ground. And then eventually, after enough time just sitting there thinking about it, I'm sitting there drinking my morning coffee. And I'm like, oh my gosh, go figure. All entrepreneurs and business owners, we're always drinking coffee. So that's how I landed on caffeine marketing.
No, I love that. That's perfect. And why, whenever I look at different marketing companies, and people are popping on the scene, what makes you guys so different compared to, like I was talking about earlier in my intro, marketing that, is out there that, they go right into creating ads?
Yeah. And first off, I love how much you know your stuff. Even before our pre-conversation, you were talking about some technical things. And I was like, wow, like you for sure got some marketing chops, which is awesome. But yeah, we use a 7-part framework called StoryBrand. And what it does, it's created by this guy named Donald Miller, and it engages the brain into a story because most marketing becomes noise to people. They're daydreaming, they're thinking about other stuff. And so if you can engage them into a story, it's like this proven path in their brain that's well worn when you use the elements of story. So people actually pay attention and want to buy your products or services.
So whenever you're looking at, this story brand, like what happens if, let's say, because we'll use a story. Let's say you have a young couple and they're wanting to break free from their, 9-to-5 job. They've got, $250,000 sitting in the bank and they're ready to start a new business. Maybe it's an online business because a lot of people are talking about that, with this, what they're calling post-COVID. I mean, we're kind of still in it, but they're looking at starting an online business. They've had this passion. Where would that story begin with them?
What's fascinating is that most people, when they come to, work with a marketing agency, they go, hey, we really need to tell our story. We need to get our story out there. And if you look at websites, and even a lot of marketing agencies are guilty of this, they make themselves the hero of their own marketing. So in the case of this couple, which by the way, they got $250,000 saved up, so kudos to them.
Right.
They're going to start talking about their story. They're going to be like, hey, we've saved for this long. We paid off all this debt just so that we could start this business, et cetera, et cetera. And the reality is that people really don't care about that. They care, and I tried to make this not sound too bad, but they care what's in it for them and how this is going to make their life better or what's at risk if they don't buy this product or service that they have to offer. So what I would suggest is that that couple start to shift and go, okay, what problem are we solving? And you're in the business space for a long time. Your problem, your product or service has to be a solution or medicine to a problem. So I think it would start off by identifying what it is, the problem that product or service is going to solve, and then how is that problem that potential customers or clients, how's that making them feel? So we would refer to that to as the external problem and then the internal problem.
No, I love that. And so when you look at like internally, like because you said internal, external, can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, let's make up something random here. Let's say they sell a dog bowl, like they sell a dog bowl. Okay. And full disclosure, I just saw my dog's dog bowl. So the dog bowl is a splash-proof dog bowl. Okay. And the external problem is that there's some water on the ground. With the ordinary dog bowl, there's going to be water spilled all over the ground. However, the internal feeling is that gives that potential customer is that they feel frustrated and distressed and not at peace. And so what we would do is we'd start to describe the emotions that they're feeling from not having a dog ball that's splash resistant, if that makes sense. And
Right.
so even in a marketing like video, for example, we could paint the contrast of those two. So we could have like the regular dog bowl, which is what I have, as like, water all over the floor, which there totally is. And then
Right.
the dog bowl that we've just created, it could be, a very clean, minimalist home that just oozes success and peace of mind. And so that's what we're doing is we're painting a picture of success and failure and really focusing on that internal frustration or distress that somebody might feel.
Yeah, no, I get that. And kudos to you. You can tell you got a marketing brain. You just came up with something random like that.
We're
You
starting a dog bowl company together.
No, that's awesome. So you have dogs?
I have one dog, yeah.
Oh, okay. One dog. What type of dog do you have?
The found kind, as my mom likes to say. So she's a mutt. I've had her for over 10 years. She's great. She kind of looks like, my wife and I argue if she's we discuss if she's a Bernese Mountain Dog mix or like an Australian Shepherd mix. She's super unique looking.
Yeah, I have. So I have and you can see it on my Instagram page. But I had gotten one from the shelter, and she looks like a German Shepherd. You would swear that she's a German Shepherd. It's exactly what she looks like. Maybe a mix with something else.
Sure.
But she is when we did a DNA test, and I'm feeling like I need to do another one because it was kind of interesting. It was like cattle dog, husky. It was, and they go back to like their great grandparents on both sides. You can get them on Amazon for like $59 or something. But it was,
Wow.
it was cracking me up because I was like, there is no German Shepherd.
That's
It was.
amazing.
But yeah, so getting back to the, like the internal aspects of looking at a bowl like that. Now that there's, and this is something that I want to emphasize. Now, you could tell the story of how you invented the bowl and make yourself the hero and say how great you are for being this inventor, and you can market it that way, make videos of and what you're saying is to go to the problem.
Yeah, so let's play this forward a little bit. I think that there is something to be said. Like there is this kind of like subculture that people like to buy products that are connected to people.
Right.
So I think if in your about section, if you wanted to tell the story of how you were frustrated, and so what you might be telling, quote, your story, but what you're really doing is walking your customers through their own story. And so it's not, it might really be your story, but it's their story. So our dog, we love Susie, our little cattle dog. But Susie's just so hyperactive and loves to play. And so water gets everywhere. And so that just left us feeling frustrated because we work so hard all day to come home to a house that's messy and has water everywhere. So that's why we created a splash-free dog water dish. And at that point, they might be telling, quote, their story, but they're not making themselves the hero. They're really walking us through an exercise that makes us think that that's our story too. So even in telling your story in your about section, you need to keep in mind the end customer, if that makes sense at all.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because one of the things that he talks about is making, if you're going to climb this journey or this mountain up, then, you need to make your business needs to be the Sherpa, that guy that has all the technical aspects to help you climb Mount Everest and to help you go to that, to get to that next level. The Sherpa is not the main person. The person that is the hero is the customer.
Right. And the thing that's super interesting about what you just said is that you want somebody who has encountered your problem, but has figured out how to solve it. So it would be weird if it was like, yeah, the dog, we struggled to find this dog bowl, and our current dog bowl is okay. The one we just invented, the splash free one, it's okay. It doesn't prevent all the spills, but it's okay. We're still looking for a better solution. And what that would do is it would undermine your authority as the guide in that scenario. Because what we're really looking for is that in the Sherpa language, somebody who's already climbed Mount Everest 7 to 8 times, they know where to be careful, they know where to take it slow, they know altitude sickness. They're the pro, and they have experienced our problem, but now they know how to solve it and help us win the day.
Yeah, and what I like about that is this approach. Not only can you take that for the way that you, and we'll get into this in a little bit, the way that you can build a website, the way that you can do your video ads digitally, but you take that approach when you work with the client, and that's what makes you guys so unique and different with your marketing team.
Yeah, absolutely. So like let's say we're doing and this is not a pitch at all, but like let's say we're doing the website. I think most people would start by going, "Hey, like what are design elements that you like? Let's see websites that, you want your brand to look like." That's important, but the very first thing that we have to do, the baseline of the foundation of the home, is really getting your messaging right. So at that point, we'll identify who's the character in your story, what's their problem, how are we positioning you as the guide, and then this is the thing we haven't talked about yet, is like giving people a plan in order to work with you. That's like a super easy way to get more business, is to put like a 3-step plan on your website. And then at that point, it's about calling them to action and then painting a picture of success and failure for your potential customer.
Right, because you can, we can use, we'll use your dog bowl analogy. You can look at somebody that put together a website, and that, that's the way, especially now with everything that's going on and people working from home, and online shopping has gone through the roof. Amazon's having record months, and people are going to websites first. Whether you're brick and mortar, doesn't matter. People are going to your website first. They're looking up your Google reviews. They're doing all these things. They're doing a little bit of research before they go and visit you, whether you're a local business or whether you sell something online, your website. And you'll see this, and I want you to talk about this. You'll see it's almost like just a big. It's like, oh, let me add this to the website. Oh, this would be good. Let me add this. Oh, okay, yeah. Let me put this technical part in the website. And I want to start right here. Like when you're transferring this theory of story, and maybe we should start at the plan first, and then kind of get into the website.
Yeah, I'll give some really super practical tips here. If you could just remove pretty much every other navigational item on the top of your header of your website and just have a direct call to action and then a transitional call to action, which the direct call to action is like book a call, buy now, it's the cart button, and then maybe have a secondary call to action that could be about us or case studies, but just remove all those other navigational items. You're going to see a lot more people actually book a call, because what's happening is that the brain is being overloaded by information and it's having to process a bunch of calories. And at that point, when we start asking people to process a bunch of calories, we're going to lose their attention because their brain's going to shut off and go, this is too difficult. And if we can't clearly articulate why our products and services help people survive and thrive, we're going to lose out on a lot of sales. So as we look at the elements of story, the story part is a tool in order to help people quickly understand and memorize what it is we have to offer, and really just like get that a well-worn path in their brain that when they encounter a problem, like a water all over the floor for a dog bowl, by the way, I now want this dog bowl. Now that we've been talking about it so much, when they encounter that problem, they're going to think of you. They're going to think of your product, your brand. So that's really key, I would say.
Yeah, and so because I want to make sure that everybody understands, Evan, on this. If they want to like create this plan or whatever, and we're going to get into that, but I want to make sure that people know, how would they go to your website to be able to? Because I know your website clearly articulates a lot of this.
Yeah. So, well, our website's caffeine.marketing. There's no .com, just, HTTPS or whatever, and caffeine.marketing. And hopefully we're practicing what we preach here. And so when you come onto our website, this is what as in story brand language, we would call this the grunt test. You should hopefully be able to land on the header or the first page of our website without scrolling and understand what it is we do, how we make your life better, and how to work with us. So those 3 questions you should be able to answer without scrolling down, and hopefully within just a few seconds. And then the plan, we've kind of been talking about that. There's really 2 plans here. The one is like a sub part of the story brand script, but the 7 part of story brand, I'll just explain it very quickly. And I kind of mentioned it in passing, is that first there's a character. So your character is your kind of psychograph, your demographics, who it is that you're selling to and what it is they want. So we want this, let's assume this person wants a dog bowl. But the problem is that their floor is really wet, and that leaves them feeling unshoveled or disheveled, or I don't know what the right word is there. We can come up with that later. And then what we as the brand could say at this point is we could believe that, hey, your home deserves, no water on the ground or something like that.
Right.
So we're aligning them with a philosophical problem. So we have a character that has a want, they encounter a problem, and then we position the company or our clients as the guide in that story with empathy and authority. And then fast forwarding, we give them a plan, and then we call them to action. So the call to action is, work with us, book a call, etc. And then the last two parts of this plan, or the story brand plan or framework, would be, ends in success and avoids failure. So we have to let people know what's at risk if they don't buy our product or service. How are their lives going to be negatively affected if they buy the wrong dog bowl? Or how great is their life going to be after this dog bowl is got some sort of copper lining that's going to prevent bacteria buildup. It's going to be healthier for your dog. You know what I mean? So now we're dabbling in what life can look like. But the part in the brand script or the story brand plan is just creating a simple 1, 2, 3. It's an oversimplification of how easy it is to work with you. One might be select a dog bowl, and then 2 might be add to cart, and then 3 have a spill-free pet area, something like that.
Yeah, and so I think we can shift from the dog bowl because I want people to understand this. I have your caffeine.marketing up right now, and I think the perfect example because, like you said, this it's very very so. Why does it look so simple? Like it looks in a good way. Your website looks really simple.
I think I appreciate that. So if you go in the top left corner, if you don't have our website pulled up or you're driving in the car or whatever, the top left corner says caffeine marketing. So even if you don't read anything else, you understand that that's the name of the company is called Caffeine, and we offer marketing. And what happens is our brains, they either read, and there's kind of different theories on this, but the main two is that our brains read our website in a Z formation. So top left to top right, down to the bottom left, over to the top bottom right. So kind of in a Z as far as the website goes. The other one is a T. So sometimes they'll read left, right, and then straight down is one idea. So,
okay.
Yeah. If so, what I'm trying to do is communicate to people in as little words as possible what it is we offer and how we can uniquely help them solve whatever problem they have. So caffeine marketing, that's our logo, brand, top left. And then you go to the right, it has course, blog, and request a call. I really just have course and blog there just because I think it looks a little too bland if I don't have 2 other navigational items.
Right.
And then once you go down to the middle section, it says a digital marketing agency that makes profitable marketing easy. And then second part, see results happen when you start using the right words and strategy. So at this point, we've got somebody who understands, okay, they're a digital marketing agency, just clear cut. I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be clever. And the very first page of the website, I need people to understand what it is we offer and how it can make their lives better. That they can finally have profitable marketing and stop being the business owner who just throws a bunch of money at random things, hoping something works.
Yeah, and something that I like about it is you have request call. You have that just on the first fold, just on that first part of when I'm looking at it through Safari. You have request call. You have 2 red buttons right off the bat, and then you have him drawing leads. And I encourage everybody to go caffeine.marketing and they can see this. This is a perfect example of what a website should be. It has leads and he's drawing that, so you kind of drawn to that. And then on the Z on the far left, you have the 3 lightning bolts, which the lightning bolts match with your caffeine marketing. Here's because I see what you're doing with your logo. You've got the coffee cup, very simplistic logo, which is awesome. Most people's logos are way too complicated. And then you've got the lightning bolt inside there, which is the caffeine, and then you explain the caffeine on the bottom with the 3, and that's more leads, higher ROI, and bigger impact. So that right there alone, you can tell you've put a lot of thought, you've put a lot of process into this. And I don't think 99.9% of people's websites, especially brick and mortar business owners, they just throw stuff on there. Like, here's my location, here's a number. But you don't realize the more phone calls you get, the more appointments that are set, you can do all of those things on your website. You can have appointments set, you can have, greater phone calls. You have that as more leads. And I think this is something that everybody talks about. How do we get more leads? How can we get more leads? And this right here alone, in what you have, just this alone will get more leads.
Jason, I'm flattered. I'm gonna start blushing at some point. So this is great. I think what we could, all take from this is that it's really helpful to have an outside view of your website. And for me, my wife didn't create my website, but she really does not care about business at all. And she doesn't know most of the lingo, doesn't want to know. I mean, she's sharp. She could learn it, but doesn't care. And so if I show her my website and I go, okay, I'm going to show you the first page, I pull up the first page, and let's say she's never seen my website before, and I go, okay, can you understand what it is I offer, and how to work with us and how your life's going to be better? And I show her the screen for 5 seconds, but I don't ask her those questions until afterwards. And so then I shut the screen. And if she goes, I have no idea, I've lost a lot of sales, because even though I'm assuming that there's business owners who might understand what like B2B and B2C and dynamic scaling of ads, all these buzzwords or whatever, I'm losing sales because people make buying decisions at a level 1 and 2 on the scale of knowledge. So if I try to get kind of, industry speak per se, I'm going to be losing sales. And you mentioned earlier, like technical terms, I really favor talking about the actual benefits of the technical terms. And I think sometimes we, try to speak technical lingo because we want to come off as like an authority in the space. But reality is that customers don't care. They just want the end result.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I do like the one of the things on your website is the dude looks like he's a UFC fighter. Have you seen his knuckles?
Those might be mine. And the other thing is that I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I don't do much striking, but I do. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, that makes sense because I looked at it. No, I liked it because you have, you had that, and then you had the, because I've been staring at this, the request calls, which are red, and then the red jacket, and then that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That if somebody does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I guarantee you, and they have a digital marketing company, I guarantee you they're successful because you have to think 3 moves ahead. It's 3D chess every time. With that. That's awesome. But yeah, so one of the things, like when because this is something you have on your website, and I want to talk about this with business owners, because I talked to somebody the other day and they're like, well, I have this marketing company that handles this, and we're spending about $5,000 on Google ads, and we're spending about $2,000 on Facebook, and they send me these reports, and that's about all they knew. They knew that they didn't need these reports, these technical reports, they just kind of skimmed over them that they get monthly. And they're like, our business is going good, so we're spending about $7-8 grand a month on this, and everything's going well. And I was thinking, like, and this is something that you have, on your website, is bad marketing is costing you. What does bad marketing look like?
I think it's two things. One we've kind of already talked about, which is making yourself the hero of the story. And hopefully, if somebody's listening to this, they can go back at their marketing if they're, bold enough or, have enough courage, and realize they're probably making themselves the hero of their own story. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is not measuring conversions. And so you mentioned the Google ads, which Google ads, in my opinion, are a little bit harder to measure. I think sometimes they get a higher ROI than they will actually track and show. However, you still need to measure conversions. And so if you're not profitable, and as we would say in marketing tech speak, what's your ROAS, or your return on ad spend, and you can't measure that, I get super nervous. You know what I mean? If somebody's like, oh, we're spending $5,000-$6,000 a month on Google ads, like you mentioned, I'm like, okay, well, how much are you making from that? And they draw a blank stare. Well, I don't know. I just know our cost per click is pretty good. I'm like, in comparison, what? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Do you want to, does your bank account want clicks, or does it want money? Like there's a difference. And that's, I don't know. I feel like attention, because I don't want a dog. I really don't. There are a lot of great agencies out there, but there is also a lot of ones that just take a monthly retainer. And so that's why, again, this is not a pitch, but like, we don't do long-term contracts. And that's not to say that you can't do this and not provide a great service. I think you totally can. I just empathize with the business owner that's stuck in the 6-month to 12-month contract, and they're only just getting cost per click results from their agency. They're not really getting a return on their investment. So we only do like a 60-day or 30-day notice, depending on the service, because if it's not profitable, it doesn't live up to our brand promise. And we really do want to make marketing profitable for our clients.
Yeah, and I think, and I've shared this story before, but I had I looked in their Google Analytics, and they were like, oh yeah, we're getting hundreds of thousands of impressions and all this stuff, and majority it was coming out of India. And I told them, I was
Oh,
like,
no way.
yeah. So what had actually happened is somebody had spam mailed them about marketing, and then they went ahead and did a call with this person and didn't even know or didn't even do that much research on the marketing, and just had been using them, just off an email that they got, this business owner. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
and so I was like, they're getting really inexpensive impressions, off of, it's not even close to anything of, if you, because you can, that's the beautiful part about digital marketing. And I hope business owners realize that you can, if you understand it, you could, like you said, you can get down to, if you have a Shopify store, you can get down to say this ad, this cost me $5.80 and I sold this product. So let's try to reproduce that. How did we do that? Well, we ran 20 different ads, and this ad cost us $30 and 62 cents. So let's let that sit there, mature for a little bit. If it's not working, then we can pull that and create another ad. So there is a way to fully measure ROI, compared to where, which there's a need for some traditional marketing, but throwing a billboard, you don't know how many eyes are looking at it. There's guesses, radio, there's always guesses. But when it comes to digital marketing, if it's done right, you can actually get, a specific number. And so, like, what are you looking at when you first talk with a client? Like, let's say there's a business owner listening to this podcast right now, and they want to, and they're like, I really like this. I've made myself the hero. I want to make the customer the hero. I'm going to push the little red request to call button. How did that conversation start off?
Yeah. So in our brand promise to make marketing profitable, there are clients that just, based off their numbers and what they're currently doing in their business. And it's not always like total revenue numbers. Generally, that's a pretty good indicator, but it's not like, hey, if you're under a certain threshold, it just won't work. But there has to be enough margin in the products or services, first off. And you have to have, the dog bowl, for example, if we're selling I hate to go back to dog bowl. It's the last time I'll do it. But let's say it's, you've got $10 in margin for your dog bowl and it's a $50 dog bowl. It's going to be hard to scale that product because you don't have much room to play with there. And I don't know how often people are buying dog bowls. It's not to say it could be done. We'd want to test it. But what people
Right.
need to do is if they want to go to our website, they fill out the form. What I'm going to get to know is like, how much is their customer lifetime value? And then how much is the value of like their first purchase together? So there's two ways to look at this. I would venture to say, I mean, I don't work for Amazon, not involved, that much with Amazon, but from what I understand is that they look more so at the customer lifetime value. So they will lose in the short term. So they will actually lose money acquiring customers, but eventually they're going to make that up over the lifetime of the customer because they have such a high retention rate. So
Right.
that approach probably doesn't make sense for most businesses. They need to be profitable from the get-go for their advertising. So at that point, I would be looking at, okay, what can you afford as far as a cost per acquisition goes for the first client? So if we knew we had $300 to play with in a high ticket item or a B2B space, that's going to be really easy to scale because I'm very confident we're going to be able to hit those numbers for a cost per acquisition basis.
Yeah, and then one of the things that you talk about whenever, when I was talking with you before the show is, story first. And I'm kind of want to get it back to this because this is a revolutionary way to market. So if somebody's talking to you on the phone, and we'll get out of the dog bowl, we'll use a plumber, and
All
so
right.
he
Love it.
had a plumbing, he's had a plumbing business for, him and his family's own a plumbing business in Denver for 45 years. So you go to their website and you see that their website is kind of put together. It's kind of old. They've had a website probably for 20 plus years. We've been here since 1948. It's got all that. You and our family are serving. Our family has served Denver area. Typical. What, like, if somebody's coming to you like that, how does that conversation start off?
Well, there's something to be said. There's one part that you can actually use that portion of the been there for 45 years. We would call that the authority section in the story
Mm.
brand framework, but it's like a pinch of salt. I mean, in comparison to the rest of the messaging, you're just little on the top because people have a subconscious thing that they need to check in their brains before buying your product. Like if on Amazon, for example, they're going to read your reviews, they just want to make sure that this is like the right product. This is legit. And then the same goes to the plumber. They want to know, okay, these guys really know their stuff. Like the plumber that we had come to our place, he was a brand new guy, installed the faucet wrong, didn't do the whatever the thing was that makes the water softer. It doesn't just like shoot out like crazy. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
what I want, if I think it's like a aerator, I think is the name of it. But
Oh yeah, aerator.
regardless, yeah, thanks. I'm basically a plumber at this point.
I guarantee
so,
you can install a faucet if you can do jujitsu.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess you could just conquer the world if you could do jiu-jitsu. So let's go back to the plumber. Okay, great. Well, the first thing that we do is we talk about the story. So we would sit down. Okay, we're gonna design a website together. That's great. Hey, thanks so much for the opportunity to do that together. Okay, we're gonna really make this profitable for you. We'd start by identifying who is their typical customer. It's probably a young family that buying an older home, whatever. We got their psychographic nailed down. Who it is, what they want. They want a house that works great, and they don't want leaky plumbing. Okay. The problem is that main water shut off is all rusty. And that makes them feel scared because this is their first home. They're unsure. What if this water pipe breaks? Water goes everywhere, crazy stuff, right? So that's the want. That's the problem. And then they feel scared or unsure. And most likely we'd go with unsure because most people don't want to own that they're scared about something. So right. Say, okay, you feel unsure, you're not sure which plumber to pick, but you're looking for, at this point, we've identified, they're looking for a plumber that they can rely on, or something to the effect that like trustworthy, reliable, and all through the rest of their branding and messaging, we're going to reinforce that messaging. And same goes for if we're designing them a website. Like the picture on their website is going to be a happy family in a home. Maybe what we're going to do, like, I don't know, if we could do some bathroom scene or something like that to do with the plumbing, or kitchen would be probably more applicable here. And then under the success bucket, we might talk about some stuff. I would get to know the client and say, okay, all right, Joe, actually, I know a plumber. His name's James. Somebody use James. James does not have a website, by the way. And so, hey, James, what are we going to talk about as success? What are people going to gain if they work with you instead of the competition? All right, well, they're going to save time and money because you're going to be affordable, you're going to be reliable, you're going to show up on time. You're going to experience peace of mind because they know when you're coming, you're going to wear protective gear because of the whole pandemic stuff and new regulations. And they're going to spend time on things that matter because they're not going to be worried trying to figure out this plumbing thing. They can focus on their business. They could focus on their family. And so what we've done at this point, we said, hey, you're going to save time and money. You're going to experience peace of mind, and you're going to spend time on things that matter. That's all success-oriented stuff. We also might say something to the effect of the negative side. We don't really want to hire. This is also like a salt-ish thing as far as we were cooking or whatever. We might say, hey, inexperienced plumbers could cost you more in the long term, or make sure that you don't try to break something doing it yourself. When in need, call an expert. But I'm kind of going on this rabbit trail here with my ADD, but as a digital marketing guy, we could also make all kinds of awesome YouTube tutorials for these people as part of a lead generation campaign on their website as like a transitional call to action, like we were talking about earlier. If we could say 5 common household plumbing mistakes that people make, something like that, and then have a super simple YouTube series that teaches people how to like turn off their main water valve or whatever, you know what I mean? So we start with a messaging, and then at that point, my team would create a wireframe. So based off the messaging, we would create a mock-up of the website without any pictures, without any colors, without any design elements, basically just showing what words are going where. And then at that point, we would actually do the design. So once we all agreed, hey, this is the right words, here's where everything's going to go, the design process, it only takes a few days at that point.
That's interesting that you take the pictures out of it and you just look at the words.
Yeah, this is even true for me, really. Like when we were building evanknox.com, that website, when I start seeing certain pictures, places, or colors, it really is just a distraction. But the thing that really matters is where the words are and what words you're saying. So that's key. Start there. Don't get any colors or any of that. It didn't matter. I want to call it garbage because it's not garbage. All that stuff involved yet. Once you've got the wireframe down, then you can, select your brand colors and all that jazz, which is at that point is fun. And yes, there is color theory and that matters, but it's just, a drop in the bucket in comparison to your messaging, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so when we're looking at so we have this website, we have it sitting there, everything, you've gone over it, made sure the story's right. Now you want to, and this is something that you talk about, is now you want to compel people to action. So how does that look like? Like when, because you want somebody to, whether you're a plumber or digital marketing agency, whatever it may be, you want them to do some type of action, either call, request an appointment, go to appointment website, whatever it may be. How do you look at that part? Like, how can we compel people to action?
Having very clear calls to action on your website, like schedule a call, is probably the easiest first step that most people don't have. And there are many times when we are redoing a website for a company, there's one that's a medical company that we recently just partnered with. And what you would think for a medical sales company. I mean, it was not optimized for sales in any way. And so we story branded the whole thing. And then a part of the story branding process is that we made sure that we had many direct calls to action. You really want to have as many direct calls to action on the website to the point to where it might be tacky. So, and you might feel tacky to you because you're hyper analyzing the website, but the person
Right.
is not hyper analyzing your website. They're skimming it. And so what we're trying to do is reinforce the messaging in their brain. Okay, it's really easy to work with these guys. They got a 3-step plan. So let's go with the plumber. Schedule a free consultation, pick a day and time, pay when the job is done. I've just now laid, it's so easy. It's just 3 steps to work with us. No fuss at all. So I'm trying to remove any barriers to entry for them, make it very clear how to work with us. And I think there's been several times in my life where I've gone, I have no idea how to even contact this person. Like I've worked with freelance designers before, gone on their website and gone like, I have no idea how to contact them. Like, do I DM them on Instagram at this point? Because their stuff looks great, but I don't know how to work with them.
Yeah, no, I've had that. I've had where I've had to go to the website, then go off the website, go to Google, look them up, and then find, the phone number to be able to call them.
Yeah, it's wild. You're losing so many sales by not having a clear way for people to work with you. And I get some people probably don't want to feel pushy or over the top. And there's definitely something to be said. So one of the clients that we've had is a investment firm. And I think they're more like a banking. I do some investing, like investment in small businesses. These guys lend like absurd amounts of money to large companies, international companies. And they were like, hey, Evan, we're just really worried at this point that we're going to get too many leads. So can you remove some of the direct calls to action? So we ended up only having one place on their website because they were worried about getting too many leads. So that was really interesting. So if you want more leads, just add more direct calls to action on your website.
Yeah, and something that the story helps is when you nail down exactly what type of customer you want to speak to. Like for instance, if you're a brewery and you are dog friendly and you have a patio and you want young couples that have millennials that have dogs to come, and you've got games and you need to tell that story because that's the type of customer that you're going to have to create community.
Yeah, and even as you were describing that, I think a picture, as cliche as it sounds, is worth 1,000 words. And so if you just have a picture of your facility at this point, so like just of the brewery, I think you're really missing out because I
Right.
would have that millennial couple with the dogs right there, with the little baby in the stroller, whatever, with a bunch of friends. And then, to go back to the investment firm, I don't know why these guys were so funny when we were working together, just laughing at each other. But I was like, what was his name? Christian was his name. And I was like, Christian, you stop. You're not going to have a building cityscape on your website. That has no relevance to who you are. But they just want it because they just think, oh, we just want to be professional and polished and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, you are not having a business cityscape on your website because that doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Right.
Thing that you have on your website requires calories to process. And if somebody looks at a cityscape and they go, are they the city or do they sell buildings? I don't understand. So don't waste, calories with your pictures.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You know how many times I've seen somebody have just a generic photo of, like New York City or something, and they're in
Yes.
Seattle. It's like that's not, yeah, like you said, that's just totally wasted fast food calories.
100%. And your brain, I was listening to some podcast. I think it's called the Whoop podcast, WHOOP. And I think that guy said on there, it was a guest, he's like, your brain is 3%, or maybe it was 2%, 3 or 2% of your total body mass, like your weight typically, but it burns 30% of your calories. So it's like the highest calorie burning, per weight in your body. And
Wow.
I mentioned that only to say that we really take for granted that customers just don't, and not that they just don't care, but I mean, golly, I'm on my phone while I'm got the TV on while we're talking about something in our, at our house. I, you really need to catch my attention on that commercial. Like there's no there's no margin for error. I feel like at this point, like you need to be very clear cut and as little words as possible to catch a hook and introduce that problem.
No, I love that. And so, Evan, you brought something up, and that's phone. And I know as business leaders, every time I have visited someone, and they always pull their website up in their office on their desktop. And they're not realizing if they go to their Google Analytics and they look, it's 60, 70, 80. I've seen, 90% of traffic coming is from your phone. How do you guys look at that when you're looking at this new mobile first?
I mean, you almost want to design a website from there first. I mean, there are a lot of companies that will just design mobile first. And sometimes it looks a little funky. Like if you've got just that little hamburger menu on the top on a desktop, I don't know if that looks so great.
Right.
However, it's really, really important. And, one of the benefits of having two, if you go to our website, let's go back to Caffeine's website in this scenario, you might look at a desktop and go, oh, they've got a call to action in the top right. And then also in the middle of the, I don't know, call it header. So like the body of the first page. That might feel like a lot, but on mobile, that top right one is not going to show up. So if I don't
Right.
have that middle one, I'm now missing out on that call to action in the first page. And so people they might scroll, and then decide to hop off the website because they don't know how to work with us. So you have to design with mobile in mind. I feel like that's just kind of duh at this point. However, if you start running ads, a lot of the traffic from the ads, we were talking about Snapchat before our time together, and I mean, Snapchat's pretty much, it's exclusively mobile. I mean, I guess you could hack your way into it via desktop. The same goes for Instagram. It's like you can be on Instagram and on your desktop, but no one uses it that way for the most part.
No.
So if you want your ads to be effective, you have to design your websites for mobile first.
Yeah, I love that, and a lot of people don't. And so, because I kind of want to get into this with, we've got the website built, we've went through our story, we've made the customer the hero. Everything looks beautiful, the site's amazing, it's very simplistic in a good way. Now, I know you guys are Facebook marketing certified, which is a big deal. Now we're like, okay, let's generate some traffic. Let's look at. What are you seeing? Because a lot of people talk about Facebook being kind of really heavy, and then ads. And I know Instagram is out there, like the dog bowl analogy. That would be, in my brain, I'd be like, that'd be perfect to run stories to.
Yeah.
Millennials that don't have kids that have dogs, would love this bowl. But when you're looking at, and Facebook owns Instagram, a lot of people don't know that, but when you're looking at running Facebook, Instagram ads, what after everything's all done and you have it all set up, what are you looking at that's unique to that compared to somebody that just may run generic ads?
Okay, so let's just back up one step, and we would look at the business and try to figure out what is, based off my experience or our team's experience, what is going to be the most profitable, what do we predict is going to be the most profitable platform. Now we charge, like, our agency fee is per platform. So often what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we think YouTube ads and Facebook ads are going to be our best two, but we don't know which one yet. So we're going to put a Facebook pixel on your website, which means that we're going to be able to retarget these people later. And then we're going to try YouTube ads first. So we try YouTube ads for a month and we get okay results. And then at that point, let's say we go to Facebook. I love starting with some sort of base existing audience. Instead of just going to targeting immediately, I think if you have a customer list, an email list, if somebody put a pixel on your website and it just has been neglected for the past 2 years, but it's still on there, like that's a lot of really, really good data that we can then leverage in order to get you a highly qualified audience. Because truth be told, pretty much always in my experience is that the Facebook pixel lookalike audience, which let's not get too technical here. It's basically us telling Facebook, hey, here's an audience that we have access to rights to whatever. Give us an audience that's just like these people. Demographics, stage of life, interest, purchase behavior, all that jazz. We want people just like them, similar job titles, whatever. Get us an audience just like that. And it makes it really easy to scale a company because at this point, we've got a ton of data to start with. That's what, I
Right.
mean, I don't know that all companies would do that, but I would try to leverage whatever existing, data that they have. I think that really gives us a leg up to be profitable for their marketing because we really are. I mean, we're not looking at cost per click because if you just wanted to run a super broad campaign, we could get it really, really low cost per click. That's not a problem at all. But we're looking at the return on ad spend.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. When you're so you're looking at, so when and people don't realize YouTube is owned by Google. So some business owners don't know that. So when you run Google ads, you can run video YouTube ads on that. Have you seen some success in YouTube?
Yeah, and I think YouTube is really underrated in a lot of ways, especially for brand awareness. I know that we were kind of picking at that metric, but I do think that there is some warrant. So if we look at the marketing funnel of brand awareness, consideration, and then conversion, those being the three steps, it's a really great way to introduce people into your brand and or retarget on the cheap. And the reason is because all of these, not pretty much all of these platforms, there is no minimum. LinkedIn has a minimum as far as like pricing goes for their bidding auction, but Google and YouTube and Facebook/Instagram, they don't have a minimum to their pricing. So whatever the minimum is that you're willing to bid, so when you set a daily budget, you're bidding to show an ad to somebody. There's not as much competition on YouTube from my experience because there's not as many people who are willing to actually create a video ad and just see it through. So I often find that YouTube is really underpriced in a lot of ways, but sometimes it can be a little harder to track the return there. So I love that as a retargeting option and also a brand awareness option, in conjunction usually with some other Facebook ads. However, I know this is not really, I don't love to play in this space, but webinars in YouTube work like pretty darn well if you can figure that out.
Oh yeah. No, I've seen that. I've seen that over and over again with their digital marketing companies are targeting us.
Yeah, they are.
All the time. People that own agencies get targeted for products, and widgets and
It's
new
crazy.
the new things that's out there. Like you can do this with your agency if you and that's the same thing, and because I have a lot of brick and mortar people that listen to the website and people that own online stores and stuff like that. One thing I want to talk about, and then I want to be respectful of your time, and we'll get into this for a few minutes, and then we'll get back into how people can get a hold of you. But whenever you're looking at, you use the word retargeting. Can you explain that, and then let people know why that's so effective?
Okay, so if we think of that, stages of the funnel that I mentioned earlier, we've got brand awareness. So nobody will buy your product or service if they're not aware that you exist. So that's the first problem you have to solve is, do you exist? Once you've solved that problem, now what we're trying to do, again, we're saying that you have the right messaging at this point. We're kind of taking that for granted because if you said the wrong messaging, they already tuned you out and they don't care what you have to offer because you kind of only got one shot and then they don't listen. It's like if something comes on the radio that you've heard before and you're like, oh, I've heard this, and you immediately tune out.
Right.
So at this point, let's say you have the right messaging. They're somewhat interested in your product or service. What we're now doing is we're reinforcing that messaging. It's the same messaging that's on your website. It's the same messaging that's on your ads. It's the same messaging that's in your follow-up email series. All we're doing is we're walking them through an exercise in memorization so that whenever they encounter that problem, in the plumber's example, they have some sort of plumbing issue, they're ready to actually call you guys or call the company to work with them. Retargeting ads really help us in that regard because they're a really inexpensive way to get in front of people who've already gone onto your website. And so that's like the easiest, most classic retargeting is people who have gone on your website. All you do for that is you put a Facebook pixel or some other sort of like, LinkedIn Insights tag or whatever onto your website. It's basically a piece of code that lets you retarget these people by showing them ads, again, specifically to these people. And so once you have that, that's very classic. Is like website sessions. You retarget people who've gone onto your website. You can even, for a lot of our e-commerce companies, will retarget people who have added to cart and will make the bid higher because these people were willing to actually add to the cart. But for some reason, they got FOMO or scared to invest. And so they just didn't pay to buy the product or service. We can retarget those people specifically. So you can get really niche in the details there. But you can also retarget people who have a customer list. So say you've got people who opted into your email newsletter. You can upload that list. I love doing that. Another one is also using your social profiles. So on Facebook, you can retarget people who've interacted with a post you've had before, or a video, or just interacted with your page, or your Instagram. So I love in a retargeting campaign, usually how I'll set it up is a combination of all of those. So I'll add in the customer list, I'll add in the website, I'll add in all the social profiles, and I'll have a little bit larger retargeting list, unless it's in e-commerce, in which I'll get more into the details of like add to carts and not.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. So, what a lot of people don't understand is there are multiple ways to not only, like, if you're a dentist and you've been collecting email addresses for 15, 20 years, there's a lot of dentists that do that. They've been collecting all these email addresses and or cell phone numbers, and they have that information. That information is gold. It is extremely valuable because maybe it's a way for them to be like, oh yeah, I use this dentist. Oh, okay, yeah, I need to schedule a cleaning, or yeah, I would like to get teeth whitening, or so that list that you have, not only for email marketing, because I see a lot of dentists will do email marketing and they'll send emails out, but you can do that same type of marketing with YouTube, with Google, with Facebook, Instagram. It's very effective, and like you said, with the lookalike audience, you can actually get customers that are like yours, and intrigue them to come and provide them an offer, tell a story of how it's going to be at the dentist office, and then provide them with something value so that they would call, set an appointment. So Evan, how would somebody be able to get a hold of you? What's the best way for them if they wanted to work with you or your team? How would that happen?
Yeah, you can just go to caffeine.marketing, and we've got or evanknox.com, whatever suits your fancy, either one. And then I got a free guide on my website. It's how to build a winning sales funnel. And it's like a Lego kit. It'll basically teach you step by step. It's super easy in order to make all that advertising that you're probably or trying or doing already profitable. Because once they get on your website, you'll need to walk them through a sales funnel. An idea for if there's a dentist out there is you could actually target people who've gone onto your website in the last 180 days, and then maybe exclude people who've gone on your website in the last 100 days. And so they've recently kind of come in contact, and then you're now retargeting them for whatever their next appointment would be or whatever.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good yeah, and there's so many ways with different there's so many creative ways, and if you're running generic and you've got a generic website and you want to reposition yourself, what I love about Story Brand, and that you guys are certified in that. What I love about that process is it's like the right way to market. It's like, and I don't want to use the words feel good because that sounds kind of generic, but it's just customer service, honestly, and being transparent. And
Yeah.
it's super simple. And I don't know if you want to speak to that before we go, but I feel like it's something that a company can put their culture out there. They can put their values out there. It's just the right way.
Yeah, and it almost, it's so funny. We were just talking about all the stuff that we get targeted to as marketers. Like I've paid $5,000 to be part of like some sort of mastermind. You know what I mean? Like I've done that. And even being part of that mastermind that I paid to sign up to, all of the ads felt very almost disingenuous
Right.
or
Exactly.
kind of deceitful. Like I'm all for an evergreen webinar, which basically just means that the webinar is always accessible at any point. However, the messaging would be like super borderline. You know what I mean? Like webinar starts in 5 minutes, website will not be available for access, whatever. Like we don't do that. That's not how we roll.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and then and then the webinar, there's like copywriting and stuff like that, where the webinar usually you can fast forward about 20 minutes, and then you'll get into, if there is any juice, then you'll get into it, because the first 20 minutes is just asking questions and a pitch. So it's just interesting to me. Well, Evan, I appreciate you being on the ABQ Business Podcast. I really enjoyed this. You provided a ton of value to my listeners. And so I want to encourage people to go to caffeine.marketing, and they can go on there. And like you said, you're providing a free build a winning sales funnel. And you may say, well, I don't want that guide. What's a sales funnel? But in the guide, he talks about increasing revenue, generating leads, and converting more customers. So there's a lot to that. And so like you said, you can get that for free. And if you want to talk to Evan, there's a request call button. It's right on the very front, very simple. And he could go through story brand with you, go through the whole idea of redoing your website, and then looking at the cost. And this is something, Evan, real quick, and I know you found this. A lot of times you can look at what they're spending now on their digital marketing. If they're spending, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 a month, and you can look at that and say, hey, let's shift this here. Let's do this. Let's, emphasize this. And sometimes you can, they don't have to go to 15 or 20 grand to get a better ROI.
100%. I mean, it's really just a matter of, it sounds like we're talking more e-commerce in this moment, but like, let's go both. But like, let's say you double your add to cart, or even increase it by 50%. It's possible you just increase your revenue by 50%. If your reach checkouts follow, and the same goes for a B2B. If you're, you only work with 10 people a year and you're $1 million company, each lead is worth $100,000. If you can just get one more lead, that website's going to pay for itself, 5 to 10 times over.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks, Evan. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Like I said, if anyone wants more information on this, this is the right way to market. It's caffeine.marketing. And I hope you and your family have an amazing day, Evan.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.